5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And it's live.
This is Leicester Till I Die TV. Watch and subscribe on YouTube and listen on your podcast platform.
Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, good night, good day, goodbye, hello. Wherever you are in the world, one of those will apply to you. Welcome on, this is LTID TV. Thank you for joining us live on YouTube. If you're in the chat, why not join in the chat? Add your comments as we go along. I'm sure we're getting so many different comments about our future manager and who it might be. If you're watching on catch up, add your thoughts below. Always pleased to read them. And if you're listening via your favourite podcast platform, thank you for lending me your ears. Now, I did actually say, did I not? Good evening. Presuming that the good may be describing how we are feeling at the moment. A while ago, I actually said, Chris Wilder is available, and then he becomes one of the favourites. As quickly as he was one of the favourites, and this is where the good gets lost, because, and I know I'm going to fall out with at least one of the panel tonight, this guy's popped up. I mean, what the fuck are we doing? This is the guy who was part of the team, part of the management team at Bournemouth that got stuffed 9-0 by Liverpool. This is the manager who was at Wolves when they were below us last season. If he'd stayed, we might have stayed up because Wolves would have gone down. And they are looking at him. I hope they've looked at him, puked up, and gone off. And look at him. If you walked out on the training pitch to that, would you feel inspired? I don't think you would. But we are actually doing another show tomorrow night at 7 o'clock where we will be talking Gary O'Neill. We've got Craig, the Bournemouth fan, is coming on. And we've got Ant and Ross coming on as well. We all know, Gary, if you watch the show regularly, Craig, a good friend of the channel. Absolutely, his tongue is so far up Gary O'Neill's arse, it's coming out of his mouth. That is how much he loves him. Maybe we've got another one in the chat with us that's a bit like that. We'll see. Let's get it in. We're going to have Clibbo. We're going to have finally. We're going to have Clibbo. Now he's worked out how to get the sound on his PC. We've got Reece, and I'm not saying who has got his tongue up Gary O'Neill's arse, but Reece, let's say that. And we've got Nick joining us. Lovely to have Nick on from the Sheffield United way. That's going to tell us how good Wilder as a manager is, or how bad he is. Well, we'll find out in a minute, won't we? I nearly had it all lined up then, and it disappeared. So we'll try it again. We'll get them all in after this. Now, we are missing Reece at the moment. Don't go away, Reece. I've got it all under control. Don't panic, sir. Don't panic, Mr. Mannering. I used to be good at this, And then everybody started to change. How do I add? Add item. Here we go. Add camera slot. There he is. Look, let's just bring him in. He's a bit too big at the moment. I didn't want to bring him in because he likes Gary O'Neill. First of all, yes, you did. Don't you deny it. I've got a witness. Nick, welcome along, mate. Sheffield United way. Thank you very much for joining us. Happy with your new manager?
Hard to say, really, because I've not seen him manage any games of football yet. But from his experience, it's a big risk. It's a huge risk to say that Chris Wilder amassed 92 points last season, 90 on the board. Obviously, we got -2 points for misdemeanors, but 92 points Chris Wilder gets, and it gets him the sack. So well, a lot to say about Chris Wilder. Not a lot to say about Ruben Sayers just yet, but I think it'll work out for us.
Reece, defend yourself, Matt, you young man. Gary O'Neill, what the fuck? Come on.
You're getting my words to it.
No. I don't think I am. Look, we're going to be talking Gary O'Neill a lot more tomorrow night. But, I mean, come on. What? You sooner have Gary O'Neill over Chris Wilder, who's got 2 promotions, won a playoff, and kept a club in the Premier League, and even got a club to the playoff finals, even with a points deduction.
Gary O'Neill's kept 2 clubs up in the Premier League, Wolves and Bournemouth, and he's never managed in the Championship either. So, and in my opinion...
He didn't keep Wolves up, though, did he?
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Did he?
23-24 season, he finished 14th with them.
Yes, that's true.
Well, I haven't done my homework.
That was the year they were predicted to go down.
It was
Well,
indeed.
moving on very, very quickly. Yeah. All right. I'll give you that one. But look, I mean, if it was a choice between because apparently these 2 are now the front runners. I mean, O'Neill is 2-5 on, Wilder is 4-1. Out of those 2, and I know we're talking Wilder tonight, but out of those 2, which would you sooner have?
Well, is that to me or Clibbo?
No, to you, Reece. Sorry.
Well, for me, it's quite obvious. Gary O'Neill. I think he's much better. He's got a better track record with youth than Chris Wilder has, in my opinion. Like I say, he's kept 2 teams up in Wolves and Bournemouth, so he has got a track record of keeping teams up. I also believe that he plays a more pressing, aggressive style of football, whereas Wilder's a bit more defensive. If I may add that, and that's the reason why I would pick Gary O'Neill over Chris Wilder.
Clibbo, let me talk to the sensible adult of the family here, please. Because which side of the fence? Oh no, don't you? Come on, which side of the fence are you going to fall on?
Well, for me, it's a bit like saying which bollock do you want to kick.
Well, yes. But if you had a bollock picked, which one would it be?
Well, I've looked at both stats, and stats often drive me crackers. And the ones that stand out to me are the overall win rate. And you have to say, overall, Chris Wilder's isn't that bad. It's 45.8%, whereas Gary O'Neill's is 31%. Having said that, looking at their styles of play,
just stop there. Don't go. No. You've said Chris Wilder. We'll take that. Move on.
Looking at the styles of play and look at the players we've got, which is really what the argument really boils down to, isn't it? It's what players you've got. Which one suits the style? Now, I personally wouldn't have any of them anywhere near the club, but I would have to say Gary O'Neill based on that. But then again, I would hire someone that the club wants to hire to use their system, the players that they've got. I know. I get it, Chris. I get it. But I'm sorry, but one of the weaknesses, if you go on ChatGPT and put the stats and everything in, one of the weaknesses, Reece, is for Chris Wilder is his defensive record. Now, I'm not saying that everything on ChatGPT is correct, but looking at the stats, he's got a poor defensive record. So playing defensive isn't going to work out. But then again, Chris is right. Somebody orchestrates a 9-0 defeat, whether it's against Liverpool or Barcelona, it doesn't matter. It's poor. It's really poor. And I can't defend that.
I'm glad I've got you in, Nick, because out of the two, I'm sorry, to me, it's Wilder every time, if it was the two. I could say I was listening to a lot of Bournemouth fans, and apart from the guy that we've got on tomorrow, the majority of Bournemouth fans wanted him gone. If he was doing that good a job, they would have kept him, and they didn't. But Nick, let's talk Chris Wilder. As a Sheffield United fan, at the end of last season, because it seems that on social media, a lot of the fans are divided. Were you yes, he had to go, or were you saying, well, actually, that's a bit harsh, and he did get us to the playoff final?
It's difficult, really. I was always saying that he should be given another opportunity. Leeds did the exact same thing as we did. They lost in the playoff final. They kept the faith with Farke, and then they went up the season after. I'm not saying that we've got the riches of Leeds. We certainly haven't. But Chris Wilder, he obviously had to pick us up off his knees because we had an 8-0 defeat in the Premier League the season before last under Paul Heckingbottom. And, the morale was on the floor. Chris Wilder picked us off his feet. We had some half-decent results, and then we had a really bad end to the season. We lost 6 or 7 games in a row. And then he had to let go lots and lots of experience. John Egan, Chris Basham got injured and couldn't make his way back. Ollie Norwood, lots of these players that we've been used to, and really big voices in the changing room. Chris Wilder administered a huge rebuild, so we shouldn't have been anywhere near the top 2, never mind the playoffs. And we brought in some half decent players, but he gelled them really well together. And we went and like I said, amassed 92 points. So I think he did a really, really good job under the circumstances. Bearing in mind we had to start on -2 as well, so that's always a psychological maybe barrier. But it wasn't for us. We flew out of the blocks, and we should have really gone up last season if it wasn't for Leeds being incredible and Burnley's defence being just very, very difficult to penetrate. We would have gone up. So I didn't want Chris Wilder to go. I think he should have got another crack at the whip. But I understand why they made the decision to change it, because new ownership wanted, their own man in charge. They wanted someone that's going to sort of steer into the AI model and signing players like Bournemouth, like Brentford, those sorts of teams. And Chris Wilder seemed a little bit resistant to that. So I think he's a little bit set in his ways. But those ways are pretty good, because he gets, what I will say, out of the 2 managers, Gary O'Neill, you've got more chance of, finishing higher up the table, in my opinion. But Chris Wilder would be an unrisky move right now, because his stock's as high as it has ever been, really. So I think he could come in and he could do a really, really good job with the players that you guys have got. But not knowing the exact squad and your strengths and weaknesses, I can't say for certain. But Chris Wilder's coming off the back of a really, really good season.
Nick, if you were to go up with, let's say you'd have gone up with Wilder, would you or the majority of your fan base would they have been happy to see him orchestrate a Premier League survival?
Yes, because he's a blade. Yeah, I think that's the main thing right now. Okay. I think if he wasn't, and he didn't have the experience and the sort of history with Sheffield United, maybe not. I don't know. But there's no way that any fan would tell you, let's get rid of Chris Wilder, because most Sheffield United fans absolutely adore him. And, we've had our ups and downs with him. But, nobody wants to see Sheffield United do well as much as Chris Wilder.
Reece, something that Nick said there. He's the unrisky choice. Now, if we were mid-table, Premier League mid-table, and you're looking for somebody to take him over, you can be a little more sort of take a gamble, right? But this next manager, whoever it is, has got to be the right decision. Now, I do put Wilder, and I'm going to come back to Nick later regarding sort of his style and his tactics, but I put Wilder very much in the sort of Sean Dyche bracket, is that he will stabilise the club. If we get a points deduction, he'll probably still be able to maybe keep us mid-table. Next season, hopefully take us up because he has got the record of getting teams up. And then his third year, because most managers at Leicester get a 3-year contract, third year, maybe keep us up. All we need on that season, we're not going to come back up and tear up the Premier League. If we finish 17th, that will do. So... Would you agree that Wilder is the unrisky choice?
I can see where you're coming from. I can understand the foundations of Chris Wilder. He likes his teams to be. He likes his players to be very physically strong, mentally prepared, and he does offer a certain style of football that is quite effective, especially in the 1920 season when he finished 9th with them. They finished only 5 points off European football. But it was a kind of unknown factor what Sheffield United were going to do that season. But I think for me, there's multiple ways to go.
Can I just say that's a completely different Chris Wilder to what you've got now. Back then, everybody thought he was this innovative, tactical genius because of the overlapping centre backs and creating wide overloads, and we took the Premier League by storm that first season. Before COVID, we fell off a cliff after COVID, but before COVID, there's a Sky Sports clip where they were talking about can Sheffield United get into the Champions League. We finished 9th in the end, so I think that just shows. I think if Chris Wilder, we never had COVID, I think Chris Wilder could still be the Sheffield United manager, and we could still be in the Premier League. That's how strong we were at that point, but it all fell off a cliff. And since then, Chris Wilder's, left via the back door when we were, we'd not won for 16 games was it a draw? I think we'd not won for 16 games in the Premier League. We ended up getting that win, but he ended up leaving. He then had the Middlesbrough job, failed there. The Watford job failed there. This was his last chance saloon at Sheffield United for at least another championship job after that. I think he'd be looking at League One jobs because of where he was at in his career and his stock value, I'd say, at that time. And then, luckily, the fact that Prince Abdullah, the former owner of Sheffield United, still had that connection with him and he had that connection with the club, brought him in to manage a Premier League club. Like I said, he'd have probably been looking at a top-end League One team before that. And then I think, yes, we've let him go and he'll probably be devastated and we probably shouldn't have let him go. But Sheffield United gave Chris Wilder a lifeline, and this is his lifeline. He took it. So what I would say is don't look so much at that 1920 season of how good he was and how innovative he was, because that's not the Chris Wilder you're going to get these days.
Oh, good point.
Okay. No, I appreciate that insight. No, like I say, you know a lot more about Sheffield United than I do, and you know a lot more about Chris Wilder than I do. But I do believe about this. It's a safe appointment. I think there's multiple ways to get promoted now. You see a lot of championship teams now. They're trying to go down the Pep route, playing a bit more of attractive football instead of Chris Wilder. Like you keep defensively solid sort of tactics. So I don't necessarily believe it's the safest appointment. I think Sean Dyche is a more safer appointment than Chris Wilder, because I think he's got a better championship record than Chris Wilder. But I get where everyone's coming from. I get where you're coming from, Chris, but it's just not for me. Not for me, Chris Wilder. And I also believe he done well at Sheffield United because he knows the ethos of the club in terms of he's a blade. He knows how it runs, and it's like Nick just said. He failed at Middlesbrough. He failed at Watford. So if he goes to any other club than Sheffield United, I do believe he struggles a little bit.
Okay, just to come back to you on that before I go to Clibbo. His first spell at Sheffield United, his win percentage was 46.7. His second period at Sheffield United has just finished. His win rate was 43.59. At Oxford, it was 44.98. At Northampton, it was 48.41. At Middlesbrough, it was 40. So I don't think he's not just successful at Sheffield United. All right, Watford, it was 27. He was only there 11 games. Mind you, that's a long time for a Watford manager. You could argue that. But so I think he does have that success at other clubs. But Clibbo, and we've also got to say as well, obviously, Sean Dyche appears to have ruled himself out of the job. So, one way or another, whether it's the fact that somebody said that Rob Tanner said that he wanted total control, and obviously John Rudkin would never agree to that. Clibbo, we can't risk a risky appointment this season, can we?
It depends on what the club's expectations are. I mean, like you were just giving out stats there. The success is really relative to the expectations of the club. So 44% for Oxford might have been outstanding, but for Sheffield United, it might have been below par.
I'm not saying the expectations, but those were the stats. He played for Oxford, he was in charge for 269 games. He won 121 of them.
Yeah, but my point is, if you're making presentation to a Leicester City fan, if you're saying to all of the fans, here's the stats, here's whatever, is it a risky appointment? Do we need to go down? Do we need to take a risk? I think somewhere in between, and I don't want to get splinters on my arse, but at the end of the day, I think what the fans are fed up with is that in-betweeny stuff. And at some point, to break the cycle, I think you have to take a risk. I really do. Is it the right time? I don't know. But the way I'm feeling at the moment, I don't want to see us go backwards. I want to see us try something. And I'm starting to fall out of love a little bit with football, with the way things are going. It's dictated by money, which has ruined our club. So we're in that position. So what do? Do we stick with the old guard, or do we take a risk and potentially use these youngsters and have millions and millions of pounds worth of youngsters that we can sell at some point, one or two here and there? Or do we go down an older manager route where they'll go out on loan and become also Rans instead of having a big opportunity?
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. Clibbo, I'm just going to move you to the side a bit, then you're not being covered up by the writing. I don't mind Reece being covered up by the writing, but he's higher than you are, so he's not getting covered up. Nick, I mean, talking of the youth, and I'm getting fed up with everybody saying we need a manager that can develop the youth. The last manager that probably developed the youth was Claude Puel. You know, Brendan Rodgers brought a load of players in, Cooper. I mean, Cooper, under-17 England manager, won the World Cup or Euros, whatever it was, with them. Was going to be great with the youth. He went out and bought any... You know, if you were under 30, you never got a chance of being signed by Steve Cooper. And Ruud van Nistelrooy, he never played the bloody youth until it was too late. And even then, it was like for 10 minutes at the end. So we're going to get a manager that's going to play the youth. No, they're not, because they're not going to risk the job. That's the thing. But what was Chris Wilder like with youth at Sheffield United?
Oh, so originally, when we had him the first time, when we had all that success, he loved signing British players over 30. And I'll be honest with you, that's what he was. However, in the last few years, where we've been penny pinching a little bit, he's used a hell of a lot of youth. And last season, we had Sidney Peck in the midfield, who played 40-odd games. I think Sidney's 20. Ollie Arblaster was the club captain, and he made him the club captain in the Premier League. And Ollie Arblaster, early 20s as well, maybe the same age as Sidney Peck. Ollie Arblaster unfortunately got injured. He would have played 40 games last season. He absolutely adores Ollie Arblaster. He brought through Femi Sarike, right back, who is incredible. The next Kyle Walker, in my opinion, if he can stay fit. There's lots and lots and lots of players. We brought in a goalkeeper who, for how old goalkeepers usually are when they come into the peak, very, very young, a really young left back as well. So he's not just bringing through the youth, he's also signing youth as well. So yeah, he's more than willing to give them the shot these days. And I think he's learned his lesson from the past, because when we're playing in League One and achieving 100 points in League One, it's fine going for older heads, Leon Clark, Billy Sharp, these sorts of players. But when you get in further up the divisions, you can't keep relying on 30-plus players. And I think he knows that now. So it's hard to really say, because the Chris Wilder that I know and love loves to play British players, and he loves them being, old enough to have that experience and, can give them a clip and say, come on, get going. Rather than, having someone a little bit younger who, might hurt the feelings a little bit, as Gen Zs are these days. I don't know what Gen Z is. Just throwing it out.
Yes. Can I just ask that question ever so slightly differently? So I think there's a difference in playing youth to developing youth. So you've told us that he's playing youth. Does he develop youth? Does he make them more valuable?
Oh, well, absolutely. If they're playing football and they're playing well, which they were last season, we won 28 games at the end of the season. At the end of the day, last season, we won the same amount of games as Burnley. It's just we lost a few more. So they were all. Chris Wilder wouldn't keep them in the team if they weren't particularly playing well, and that might be the wrong thing to what you're necessarily asking. But Chris Wilder wouldn't just play them to develop them. He would play them, if they deserve to be played, if they're young, well, if they're old, if they're good enough, they're old enough. So he kept bringing them out as well. So, for instance, Sidney Peck, we had to play him for the majority of the season because we had big injuries in the midfield. But he would change them in and out and make sure they're not getting kind of too tired and affecting the performances. But I would say it was development. He would send out the players on loan who he thought were going to be nowhere near the squad, which I would do. Anybody would do. But the amount of players that he developed into, multi-million-pound players that nobody knew about the season before, I think that shows that he's developing them.
No, that's encouraging, I suppose.
Yes. Yeah, no, it is.
I don't really want to talk about this too much because I don't want to lose any of our players, but the amount of young players that have been
we can't afford to buy them. You're safe. Don't worry. We've got no money.
No, what I'm saying is, like, West Ham after Sidney Peck, Brighton apparently after Ollie Arblaster, even though he's been injured for the majority of the season. These players are being looked at by Premier League clubs. So for me, that shows that we've developed them. Sidney Peck came from Arsenal. He was, he got kicked out at Arsenal. And we took him under our wing, and within a year or two was in the first team playing 40 games. So, yeah, if that's not development, I don't know what is.
Well, that's good to hear. That's good to hear. Just quick, would you describe Wilder as a head coach or as a coach or as a manager?
He's a manager. He's an old school manager. If anyone called him a head coach, I think he'd walk out the door straight away.
Vince, we've got a quote from I was on Blue Glinted Lasses before I came on here, and he was bringing a quote up from Gary O'Neill saying, "I'm a head coach and I always will be a head coach." What do Leicester need at the moment? Do we need a head coach or do we need a manager? Because the way I look at it is, if we've got a head coach, then we're giving a lot of responsibility to John Rudkin. And John Rudkin couldn't pee in the right direction if he was using a pipe. And then you've got, a manager in Chris Wilder or a Sean Dyche or somebody like that, who basically, yes, they have the whole say and etc. But is that a bad thing? What do you think we need at the moment?
Well, look at the last time we appointed a manager in Brendan Rodgers. We went completely. We started off great, but then we went downhill because he took complete charge of the club. And Manny has made this point: is that we need to take responsibilities like that in terms of recruitment out of the manager's hands. That's what a head of recruitment's for, and that's what a director of football is for. Now, in terms of the game's changed. It's all about head coaches now. It's all about being a head coach. You don't see many old school managers anymore that take charge of the upper echelons of the club. So I think for what we need, it's a difficult one, because I can see where you're coming from in terms of our board, because our board are completely inept at the minute. Like, they're absolutely piss poor with how they're running the club.
Yeah, in the chat.
Yeah, it's a hard one. I'd have to really think on that. But I'm not really bothered about what goes on. I mean, obviously, I'm bothered about what goes on at the top of the club, but I'm just more interested in seeing what's on the pitch. That's what I pay my money for, to see these kids develop into top players and to win football matches. That's what football to me is, instead of looking above what's going on above the club. And that's what PSR's done to us. And that's a hard one.
That's a very Keir Starmer answer. I'd have to go away and think about it. I mean, I'm going to put you on the spot and say that we don't allow that. Wayne tries that all the time. He goes off and answers the question he wants to, not the one I've asked. So, all joking aside, on your decision now, thinking about it, with everything that's going on with the club, what would you sooner have in charge?
Well, I think with these group of players,
it's a head coach or a manager. It's A or B. Come on, Keir, give us your answer.
Don't ever call me him again. I think
if you don't know the answer, I will.
Right. A manager for me with these group of players hasn't worked. So let's try a head coach. There you go. I've said it.
Okay, now that's fine. Let me come to you then, Clibbo. We've got a head coach, and the recruitment is taken out of his hands and it's given to the recruitment team, or God help us, John Rudkin. And I've been a manager of a team where I've had somebody dropped on my team that I didn't want, because I knew that person wouldn't fit in with the other players. With the other team members, wouldn't get on. I knew, it was going to be bad from the start, but I was told I had to have her. I would not have even interviewed her, but she got the job. She lasted about 2 months, and then she was moved to another department because it wasn't working. Surely, as a head coach or as a manager, you should always have the final say on who comes in. Now, you can say, right, I want a right back, right? And the recruitment team and Martin Glover will go off and say, right, talk to him, what sort of right back you're looking for, and they'll have a discussion, and they'll come back with 3 or 4 options. And they say, right, manager though, surely the manager has got to have the final say in which one of those he chooses, because he's got to work with him day in, day out.
I think ordinarily, and I'm not going to go political answer in this. I think ordinarily,
don't you turn into Angela Rayner?
Good God, I'm far prettier. And anyway,
allegedly, I haven't got deep pockets with the lawyers. Allegedly.
No, I think I like an old school manager. I'm not going to lie, but I'm a little bit older than Reece. But I think what Reece is saying, and I kind of agree with him, the game has moved on, and it's difficult for players now with the way that they're brought up. Very young players have been brought up in the modern game. They wouldn't be able to manage or take the grief that a manager would give them if they needed a kick up the arse. They've grown up in a slightly different way, and I do fear that younger players would feel a little bit disrespected and a bit kind of like, I'm not putting up with this. I'm not used to being spoken to like this. Whereas we've grown up with it.
To be spoken to like that. Maybe like Nick said, the Gen Z brigade, they need to grow a pair of balls, and I think you're disrespecting me saying that, and I think you're fuck off. If you've done something bad, I want to be able to say you've done something bad.
It is the culture, though, isn't it?
That's what you're getting from Wilder. That's what you're getting from Wilder. Wilder will do that.
Problem.
I'm not saying he will fall out with players, but what I'm saying is he will know very, very quickly who's on side and who's not. And the thing is with Wilder, he always has really, really good dressing rooms. It's a bit Neil Warnock-esque, where it's like you either love him or you don't. And Wilder will put an arm around you when you need to. Do you know what it was? A few years ago, Dean Henderson threw a ball in the back of his own net against Liverpool in the Premier League. And Wilder laid into him in the press conference. And Henderson came back stronger. And it's because he knew what Dean Henderson was like and he knew he could take it. Aaron Ramsdale, the season after, he kind of supported him in the press because he knew that he needed that arm around his shoulder. That's the thing with Chris Wilder. He knows his players so well. And the amount I went to the Player of the Year and talking to some of the players this season, they were like, we would literally run through a brick wall for Chris Wilder. And they're saying these things without me even asking them the question. Yeah. They absolutely adored him. And I don't know whether it's the Sheffield United connection and the fact that he's a Blade and he instills that into even players that aren't from Sheffield or who aren't Blades. I don't know whether that is the thing with Wilder. Because like you've said before, it didn't work necessarily at Watford or at Middlesbrough. In recent years, it's only worked at Sheffield United. So I don't know whether that is a factor. But his dressing rooms are always really good and he always gets the best out of, the players that are in front of him. So I don't necessarily think you can trust Wilder with loads of money. He's proved that in the past with us, with buying Brewster, with buying McBurney and other players for kind of 20+ million. But he's really, really good at working with those players that are in the dressing room, in the door. And he's really good at bringing in kind of free transfers and, again, speaking to them on the phone, getting them to buy into the club and his philosophy and things like that. So I can't speak highly enough about him for things like that.
I mean, exactly. Like you say, don't give him the money, but give him the final decision from the choices that are available. Reece Tom says there, Vestergaard and Bertrand as well. Brendan wanted them. It was, but Brendan's gone now. So, Reece, look at the squad we've got. I mean, it's full of fucking prima donnas. Don't you wish there was somebody, a manager, that would come in and say to FaZe, "You're fucking shit, mate. Sort your stuff out," and stand up to them and tell them instead of all this pussyfooting about. Like I say, for me, a team of prima donnas. Don't you think that's Wilder's the sort of guy that we need to come in and sort that out?
Well, I think very quickly, and this is where I will defend Chris Wilder, I don't think he'll have people like Fass, Samare anywhere near the team. I really wouldn't, because I will defend him to that point because he can. By the sounds of it, Nick says he's a very good man manager. Puts his arm. He's very good at identifying personalities. Like I said, I don't know if he knows if it's because he's a Sheffield United fan and he knows, or because it's obviously not worked at Middlesbrough or Watford. But I think it's difficult because the game's moved on from this man management saying, "Oh, you're fucking shit," or you get Beckham having a boot at his head from Fergie. The game's moved on from all that sort of stuff. You have to do.
For the better. It's moved on for the better or the worse.
The worst for me.
For worse for me as well. But that's we have to get used to that, and that's the way the game has gone. You can't do that, otherwise you'll never see the player again because players have got too much power.
Well, I was going to say. Player power, let's get it back from them. It shouldn't be the player power. It should be the club and the manager.
Yeah, no, I agree, but they're on too much money. There's players at this club are on too much money and they can do what they want. They've got the power to do. Right, I don't care. I'm on 90 grand a week. I'll sit out happily. So I don't think it's tactics like that will say, "Oh, you're fucking shit." And I don't think it'll work because the game's moved on.
I think there's too many jobs. There's too many jobs it's like if you're saying you were management, Chris. I should imagine, when you were managing, you had a team that you delegated to, but it wasn't a massive team, and each one had a couple of jobs that they need to do. In a football club now, it's like the bloody NHS, isn't it? I mean, it's like there's managers for management, there's meetings for meetings. I mean, how confusing is that chain?
Yeah, no, I agree. But I just think, yes, football has changed. I don't think it changed for the better. I mean, I'm going to be controversial here and say maybe there won't be as much player power now that Jamie Vardy's left.
Yeah.
Controversial, possibly, but I actually think that. And we need to get the power back out of the players. John says there in my day, Franco Farrell and Malcolm Musgrove. Bloody hell, John, you're older than me. So that's saying something. In fact, I don't even know if Clibbo will remember them or not. But Nick, look, Chris Wilder. Now I'm a bit confused here because I'm not saying that everything the transfer market say and do is sort of spot on, but they've got Chris Wilder's preferred formation as 4-2-3-1.
Yeah.
But then a lot of people are saying he plays three at the back.
Yeah.
Okay. So
does he have a plan A and B, or is he just confused? What is his preferred style?
Okay, so the three at the back thing is dead and buried. So that was when we were on our. That's when we were on our rise. Three at the back was three centre backs, overlapping centre backs, getting your wing backs really, really high, causing those wide overloads, getting three players in a triangle and just passing it between them and getting down to the byline and crossing it and scoring. That's what we did really, really well from League One to the Premier League. Then we were found out, which I still don't think we did. I think it was just the players weren't playing at as high a level as what they were before, and we got a lot of injuries. However, Chris Wilder, I think he was always synonymous with playing three at the back. I think he did the same thing at Borough as well. Not sure about Watford. I don't think he had the players at Watford to do that. But when he came back to Bramall Lane, I don't necessarily think that he wanted to play four at the back, but I felt like everybody knew he was so synonymous with three at the back and overlapping centre backs. I think he kind of wanted to get away from that, and maybe we didn't have the personnel to do it, but he went four at the back. Because we were even playing three centre backs and wing backs under Paul Heckingbottom afterwards, and with Slavisa Jokanovic even before that. So the club was geared towards three at the back. And then when he came back, we then went back to four at the back, two defensive midfielders, two wingers, a number 10, if you like, and then a striker. So, like, as you've just said, a 4-2-3-1. And then back end of the season, he's quite pig-headed at times, and he's quite stubborn with his formation. He played at 4-2-3-1 practically all season until we had that week from hell where we lost 3 games in a row, and then we went from top of the league to third, and we never reached the heights of second again. And then he went 2 up top, and he played 4-2-2-2 with two kind of not necessarily out and out wingers. It was Rhian Brewster on one side, Gus Harmer on the other, and they very much kind of came inside. So he does have a plan B. It's usually throw on another attacker, and that's it. But towards the end of the season, Kiefer Moore regained his fitness, and he played with a big man, little man up front, like you kind of old style dinosaur, if you like.
Hang on, he played 2 up front.
Yes,
give him the job. Give him the job. We have for somebody to play 2 up front.
We haven't got 1 striker, let alone 2.
Well, we haven't now.
We ain't got 2 strikers.
You can't call Daka a striker, can you?
No.
Well, when he went 2 up top and went with the big man, little man situation, that we improved, and I think he saw that the players that we had weren't playing in the right system for the job at the back end of the season. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. We could have easily gone up in that playoff final, but we didn't. And you could say, maybe he should have played this formation, that formation. But the long and short of it is 4-2-3-1 saw us to practically top 2. So I feel like he would try and play that again. But I'm not saying that he's completely forgotten about 3 at the back. In my opinion, I feel like we should have played 3 at the back, because going into the Premier League, most most teams that get promoted that play 4 at the back get absolutely annihilated. So I think you've got to play 3 at the back in the Championship, and then kind of revert back to 5 at the back, if you like, in the Premier League, because it's so difficult these days. So yeah, I think he will play 4 at the back, 4-2-3-1, unless the players that you've got lend themselves to a different formation.
Oh God, the players we've got don't lend themselves to any formation at the moment. Reece, there we go. Then look, everybody's saying that we should be picking a manager that will, every time we change managers, like when Enzo left, we brought Cooper in, and Cooper completely tried to change the style of play and the formation. And let's be honest with you, when you've had Enzo barking down your neck for 12 months saying you play this way, it was going to be, to come in and change things, it was never going to be easy. But Enzo played a 4-2-3-1. Then you've got with his preferred formation. Then we had Cooper in, got rid of Cooper. They brought Ruud van Nistelrooy in. He played 4-2-3-1. Not as successfully, let's be honest, as Enzo, but he played a 4-2-3-1. And now we're talking about possibly Chris Wilder, who plays 4-2-3-1. So, those that argue that, well, he's old-fashioned and he doesn't play the same style. He prefers exactly the same formation as Enzo and Ruud. So he is carrying on that philosophy, isn't he?
Well, first of all, Enzo didn't play 4-2-3-1. He started off with 4-3-3, and then when we were in possession of the ball, we went to 3 at the back, Ricardo going as a double pivot alongside Winks, with 2 advanced 8s, 2 wingers and a striker.
I'll take that. Again, I'm only saying what it says on Transfer Market. So
that's all right.
I will add to your superior knowledge on that one, because you went every week.
No, I mean, like I said, I get where you come. I get where you're coming from in terms of the continuity of the formation, but obviously we've seen previously with Steve Cooper's 4-2-3-1 and Ruud's 4-2-3-1, it's not worked, has it? So why not try something different? Why not go to a 3 at the back? I think we've got the personnel to play a 3 at the back with Valuco now showing his capabilities like he did on Saturday alongside Okoli and Nelson. So obviously, it's like I said, we've had 4-2-3-1 for a while, and obviously it's not worked. So again, why not play 2 strikers? But obviously we ain't got 2 strikers, so we've barely got 1 striker.
Yeah.
So because Patson Daka's awful. But no, I think we need a complete different style. We need a continuity of managers coming in, someone that's going to fit the style that the club want to go down. It's no good going from possession-based Enzo to part the bus Cooper and then to counter-attacking Ruud. And then I don't know how Wilder plays now. Is it more counter-attacking, Nick, or is it more like possession-based? What would you say it's kind of?
I think if he had the pace, he would like to play counter-attacking, and that kind of what we attempted to play, because we didn't necessarily have the personnel to pass you to death and find that killer ball. So my slight issue with Wilder, a lot of us were saying it all season, was that there weren't too many repeatable patterns of play, and we weren't quite sure how we were winning games week in, week out. It was almost like we looked to Gus Harmer and Raksaki and these sorts of really creative players to find. Oh yeah, absolutely, and try and find that key to unlock the door. So it's hard to really talk about Chris Wilder's style of play, because we turned up, we scored a goal, we saw it out, we won, and yeah, it was a weird season where a lot of us were moaning because we weren't seeing the expansive football that we wanted to see, but we were winning games week in, week out, and I just think it's kind of more the Chris Wilder mentality that kind of gets you through games. But just to answer your question, I think we held on to the ball a lot, but then you look at the possession stats after the game and it's just like 44%. It's just like, what's happened there? So, yeah, we passed it around well, but we let them have the ball enough to kind. It's really, I'm finding it difficult to really give you a solid answer on this one, but I feel like we had the ball less and we were a counter-attacking side. But against the worst sides, we did hold on to the ball and dominate play. And like I said, just found a way to win.
Were your team really fit? Really fit?
No, I would say not. And I think that's the reason why they've brought in Ruben Sayes as well, because there are a lot of our really, really important players that were either pulling up later on in games or not being able to get past 70 minutes. And that's mostly our best striker in Tyrese Campbell and Gus Harmer. Both those two really struggled for fitness most of the season. I think that's the reason why we didn't get promoted. But Chris Wilder's history tells you that his teams are always fit. And that's why it was a bit of an anomaly last season. And I'm not sure what the answer to the question was. But yeah, I think he will get them really, really fit, your lads, if he were to become the manager. But yeah, last season wasn't the case.
I mean, Clibbo, we know what it's like not to have much possession. We won the bloody league with the less position than any other team has ever done. Interesting. Something like that. Yeah, it wasn't a lot, but that was counter-attacking football. But I've got to say, when you look at the game on Saturday that we played, there was two styles that Kingy played: the 4-2-3-1 at the start and the 4-3-3 in the second half. And the goals that came and the game was won on that second half performance.
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately, what he did was picked a really good mix of youth and slightly older players, let's say, for both halves. And I think it showed to me that the slightly younger players preferred that second system because they seemed to thrive in it. But I wouldn't say that the other system didn't work. I would say perhaps the personnel for that system wasn't quite as well matched. But I do think if you look at that game, I mean, it is what it is. It's a pre-season game against Peterborough. But we played pretty much a lot of under 23s who seem to adapt very, very quickly. They look very, very fit. And that's the reason I asked Nick, because if they're going to play counter-attack football, I think you've got to be very, very fit and very, very sharp. And I think those are two things that those players showed. They showed very, very quick feet, very sharp, very quick on the attack. And their thought processes as soon as they had the ball was quick. Right, where can I make that forward pass? So that's the way I'm looking at it. Would Wilder be able to sort of get those players and go, right, no matter what system I play, whether it's 4-3-3 or an alternative one, can I get them utilising their skill sets, which to me was fitness and sharpness of mind.
Yeah, interesting. And we're all going on like, O'Neill is now the front runner. I mean, 3 hours ago, Sky posted O'Neill a front runner for the Leicester job. But if you go back 6 hours before that, Sky posted Dyson Wilder on Leicester managerial shortlist, but complicated role option. You blink and the news changes. Interesting thing there, Nick, taking up what Clibbo said. And this kind of got to me last season because we had a manager, and you said this before, that Chris Wilder probably stuck with a formation and style longer than maybe he should have. We lost 19 games, I think it was, or 17 of 19 games, whatever it was. It was the worst ever in a row, and we were playing the same formation and the same players. And it's that's the sign of stupidity, not stupidity. What do they call it? Madness. Trying to do the same thing, insanity. That's it. Thank you, Clibbo. Sign of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. And I kept saying, why don't you try something else? If you came out, and I think he did once, but then reverted back. But if he tried something different and we hadn't done very well with it, he would turn around and say, well, you know what? He tried something different and what have you. Is Wilder, though, that adaptable that he could come in and realise that, he's got a load of turds, in that changing room, and then not, think, right, well, this is what I'm going to play. Maybe lose the first 3 or 4 games. I hope not, but you never know. And then would he look at it and go, yeah, you know what, I need to actually change this, but, square pegs in square holes sort of thing. Is he adaptable to do that?
I would say stubborn, but he is adaptable. He's not stupid. He won't just go with the same formation, the same team for game after game after game after game. He won't. He's not that sort of person. But like I say, he is very stubborn in his ways. I think the reason why he was stubborn with the formation for such a long time last season was we were winning games of football. We were winning games of football 1-0 every week. And the fans were getting a little bit restless because we were seeing on the pitch, we're so much better than this other side. And we're winning 1-0. And the last 10, 15 minutes, we're just defending for our lives because, he wouldn't go for that second goal or that third goal. So that was the biggest worry. But we were still winning games of football. So Chris Wilder could come out after the game and say, like, what are you moaning at? We're winning games of football. So he was stubborn, but at the same time, he maybe had a reason to be stubborn because we were still winning games of football.
Reece, we had a stubborn manager in Nigel Pearson. And he'd fallen out with Mark Albrighton and his missus, whatever the rumours are that you want to believe. But he was big enough to go out and go, right, I want to bring you back in, Mark. And he brought him back in, and the Great Escape happened. And yet we had a stubborn manager in Ruud van Nistelrooy who fell out, and, you're either Team Winks or Team Van Nistelrooy, whichever side you're on. He not only dropped him, he then didn't play him for the rest of the season, which to me is putting, your ego above what the club needs. Nigel Pearson, as stubborn as he was, and let's be honest with you, he was bloody stubborn. We all remember the ostrich and everything, but at least he had the nerve to go, look, I need Mark Albrighton in the team, and brought him back in. Nistelrooy didn't do that with a couple of players.
Yeah, Nigel originally started with a 4-4-2, and then he went to a 3 at the back, and he brought in Robert Huth on loan as well from Stoke, and played Wes Morgan and Vasilevsky alongside him, and Albrighton went to right wing back. So I think it is good to have adaptability in your game, because that's what Enzo, I think, struggled with. We keep playing the same way, and then we had a little dip where we lost a few games, and then we nearly blew the bleeding league. But yeah, I found a little Chris Wilder quote, and it said, "I love to play the same formation, but different teams pose different problems." So, like I say, he is adaptable in his approach. So, but yeah, I mean, I don't personally like to stick to one style. If you're not gonna have possession against Man City, are you? So yeah, you do have to change your approach sometimes.
It's that again. We're coming back to the plan B. Nick, I'm going to ask you a question which will lead on to my question to Clibbo in a minute. Does he have a number 2?
God, yeah. Yes, he has at least two other blokes that he takes with him everywhere. And his number 2 is Alan Nill, and we absolutely adore Alan Nill. We adore him all, to be honest. But he's got his people that he takes with him everywhere. He might even take Jack Leicester with him this time. Who's been at Sheffield United for a long time, and he's a Sheffield lad. He's got his team. Alan Nill's more of the sort of set play guy, and he's very, very much old school. He's very old school, the way that Chris Wilder does things. And like I've said before, he's very set in his ways, but he gets the job done. But yeah, he's absolutely loves bringing all his backroom staff with him. But a lot of managers do, to be fair, don't they?
They do. The reason I'm asking that, and I'm a bit worried if he's already got 2 assistant managers, because Clibbo, when Claudio Ranieri came in, he kept Craig Shakespeare on as his number 2. And for me, that was one of the reasons that we did so well. Yes, he still had his own number 2, but he had the guy from the previous regime that if he turned around and said that, I want to play Daniel Amati up front and try that Craig Shakespeare could go, in his best Italian, you fucking idiot. You don't want to do that sort of thing. There was that connection. Now we've got that connection, if you like, with Andy King. So, and I suppose, I would want whoever it is to come in to keep Andy King as the number 2. And a lot of people are saying we should give Andy King the job now. Why? He's too inexperienced. You know what I mean? He's even more inexperienced than the likes of Gary O'Neill. Why give him the job now? Yes, he's a Leicester legend, but I tell you what, if he starts losing games, people will soon turn on him. You know what the Leicester crowd's like. But if we can get somebody like Chris Wilder or Gary O'Neill, whoever it is that comes in with Andy King as part of his team, one of his assistant managers, like Claudio and Shaky, then King could maybe move up when that manager moves on. Like Liverpool boot room back in the 70s, 80s.
I think that's the ideal situation. I'm not saying Wilder or O'Neill. I'm saying a manager that's prepared to come in. I mean, if you're a manager and you've got a bit of nous about you, you are going to look at the job as a whole and go, I need a link person, because let's be honest. All we've talked about all night, with respect, is that Wilder is a Sheffield United man, and that's fine.
Yeah.
So to bring that ethos to Leicester City and try and bridge that gap, you're going to need somebody who's equally Leicester City as he is Sheffield United. I think it's crucial.
Yeah.
And I'll be fuming if they get rid of. I'll be fuming if they get rid of Kingy. Absolutely livid.
Totally. I mean, maybe if Man United had kept hold of Ruud van Nistelrooy, they wouldn't have had. Well, maybe they would have had a shitter season, having seen what Ruud van Nistelrooy was like. I mean, do you think he would do that, Nick? Do you think he would take something like that on board? And would he also take the advice that Andy King would give him?
Not sure about the advice bit, but as Clibbo just said, I really think that could be, a big link between Wilder and Leicester City, because Chris Wilder likes a football man, as he always says, and he likes that kind of local affinity with, and it's the link between the fans as well, isn't it? Because like you've just said, you'd be fuming if you get rid of him, and he's going to hear these things from the board, from people around the club, if he were to get the job. To get the fans on side, you need to bring him in. Like when Wilder first took the United job the first time, you guys all know Dean Hammond. He was at Sheffield United.
Yes, yeah.
We despised the man. The first thing that Wilder did was get rid of Dean Hammond and made Billy Sharp, who was a club legend, the captain. And that's the sort of thing that Chris Wilder does. So I could quite comfortably see him keeping Andy King on, but he will also bring Alan Knill with him and at least Matt Prestridge with him. Yeah.
Paul says there, no one is going to turn on King. Yes, they will. Once, and even if it goes drastically wrong, yes. But, I think everybody's building Andy King up. He's been in charge of one pre-season friendly, which was 2 halves of different teams. I don't know what his credentials are for giving us, for giving him the manager's job. Yeah, give him the assistant manager's job, and maybe in a couple of years' time, he'll be ready to move up. But look, fans are fans, and we don't care who we turn on. I'm sorry, it happens. It happens. We're fickle fans. Look up football fans in the Oxford Dictionary, and it will say fickle next to it. But Nick, look, thank you so much for coming on. Last question before I let you go. Do you think Chris Wilder, and we're going to come back and blame you on this, so be careful what you say. It is live. It is being recorded. we will be making notes. Do you think Chris Wilder would be a good choice with the position that Leicester are in? And remember, we may have a points deduction, we may have a transfer embargo, and we may have a management plan in place. We may not, but we might have some of those. Would Chris Wilder be a good fit for Leicester City?
I actually do think he would be. All those things, and I think he's had that with other clubs, especially Sheffield United. And like you said earlier, last season we had a -2 point deduction from the start. So he'll be used to that. He'll know that, he's got to reach those magic points to get into positive figures. And like I said earlier, Chris Wilder just gets players together and gets them all pulling in the right direction. So not being able to buy players might be a good thing, and a lot of managers might be put off by that, but Chris Wilder certainly won't. I think right now for you guys, I think Chris Wilder, to steady the ship, would be the perfect man. But as we've seen for previous teams, it's not worked for him. So, as I said earlier, it would probably be the safest choice. I think if you want, exciting football that might get you, into the Premier League and further, then maybe Gary O'Neill is the right manager. Who knows? He's only managed 100 games, I think, something like that. Whereas Chris Wilder's managed 10,000 games, it seems.
Yes.
He's been in every
1,068 to be precise.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
1,068. Wow. He's won 463 of those, of which 43, and it makes equivalent to 43.35%.
I think the other thing to that is the fact that he's got a lot of championships experience. As you said earlier on about Gary O'Neill, he's not. He's not managed in the championship. So I think that'll stand him in good stead, Chris Wilder. And I think he'll do a good job for you. I really do if he were to get the job. So it's a tough one for me to sit here and say he's definitely going to do well for you. But I think he will. He's a man that will get the best out of him.
Pack it in. Pack it in.
I'm just writing it down. I'm just making a note.
I've got to say, Nick, I'm sort of 51% at 49 now. Wilder, I haven't listened to you.
I honestly don't think he's the man for the future, but he might be the man for the now, and he might get you into the playoffs despite possible points deduction. So I think he's the right man for the job right now. As I've said, Gary O'Neill might not be able to come up with the goods with all the problems that's going on at Leicester.
Yeah, for me, I think whoever the next manager is, it's a 3-year basic contract. Whether we extend it after that, if we get a roll in and he does well, we might extend that if we manage to keep hold of him. But for me, whoever comes in, whether it's a Dyche or a Wilder, a Neil, a Terzic, whoever it is, has got a 3-year plan. First plan is to stabilise us, because the club's in the shit at the moment, and that is to stabilise us and make sure we don't do a Luton. If we don't go up straight away, that's fine. I'm not expecting to go up. And I think if we go up in the second year, although it's obviously going to be more difficult, but if we go up in the second year, like Leeds have done, I think we'll go up stronger and got a better chance of staying up. And then for the third season, just keep us up. And then at the end of that 3 years, you go to the next stage. And I think for the 3-year plan, I think, like you, Clibbo, I'm kind of convinced. The interesting thing was, though, I did try to get on for a different show, a Everton fan that actually hated Dyche. And you know what? I struggled. I am struggling. Everybody I speak to said, like, were you pro-Dyche or anti-Dyche? Well, I could see what he did for the club. He kept us up. And for God's sake, I want somebody who hates him. but Nick, give a shout out to your channel, because we will be playing you, of course, twice this season.
Absolutely, yeah. We run the Sheffield United Way YouTube channel, and you'll find us on all social media platforms: YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, even. I'm way too old for TikTok, but somebody else is doing that for us.
You and me both, mate. You and me both.
Nick, are you enjoying the Sheffield Wednesday demise? Are you enjoying the Sheffield Wednesday demise? Are you enjoying the Sheffield Wednesday demise at the minute with what's going on there?
You know what? It's fun. It's fun to watch, but at the same time, people are going to hate me for saying this, but I don't want to see Wednesday go out of business. No. I want to see him do. I want to see him do poorly. I want to see him go down. Yeah, and I would actually like to see us both in the Premier League at some point, because I was just too young to remember when we were in the Prem together. But yeah, it's fun. It's fun while it's going on, isn't it?
I was the same with Coventry and Derby. I love the fact that they were struggling, and I love the fact they were getting points deductions, and Coventry didn't have a home. I don't want them to go out of business because that was nearly us twice, wasn't it? And there, but for the grace of God, as they say. So I don't know what you mean. Look, your link's in the description below and in the title, Nick. Thank you so much for coming on. You've convinced me and Clibbo, if not Reece. So thank you very much.
Not convincing Reece.
No. He's Gary O'Neill through and through. But we'll do something again for the games when they come up, mate.
Absolutely. Cheers, chaps.
Thanks so much,
mate.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Can I just say before you cut me off?
I'm not going to cut you off, actually.
When you said you've convinced Clibbo, all I'm saying is out of him and O'Neill, I don't.
No. That's enough for me. That's enough for me. I'll take that. I will take that. It's just that upstart of a nephew of yours. That hasn't been supporting Leicester. Look at him, he's got bum fluff on his face. I mean, he's not, he's too young.
Sod, I've been going down since I was 3 years old. I've been going for 22 years, you cheeky sod.
Yeah, true story.
Oh, my God. No, well, it explains a lot. That's all I'm going to say. Look, there is his details. As you can see there with him. 4-1 he is now, second favourite. He's no compensation. Everybody's saying Gary O'Neill's going to be the cheapest option. Is he? Because, this guy isn't working either. He's got the experience. Like we just said, 1,068 games. Yes, he's 57. The interesting thing is, out of everybody we've been linked with, he survived longer as a manager than any other manager that we've been linked with.
That's interesting.
And that must say something. You can say, well, the win percentages depend on the expectations, but nearly 3 years is his average stay as a manager. All right, that is bumped up, I'm going to say, by Oxford and Sheffield United, but it's still not bad when you look at, not sure what Gary O'Neill is. I think he's about 1.5 or something like that. As I say, I've got him down as a 4-2-3-1, which is what it says on Transfer Market, but I have put a question mark there because obviously we did discuss that. He's not won anything, but he has won the playoff final, although it was via penalties. And look, you can see the percentage wins there as well. I just want to bring this up, lads. I don't know how that is easy or not to read, but like I say, these are the latest odds with TalkSport Bet. And as I say, literally, as I was doing this earlier on, Chris Wilder actually changed. He went out a little bit while I was actually doing it live. But Gary O'Neill is the favourite at 2-5 on. Chris Wilder is 4-1. Danny Roll has gone out to 5-1. I don't know why it's complicated because he's unless it's the fact that they're waiting to see who's going to buy the club if it's up for sale. But it shouldn't be complicated because he's agreed a cut price get-out clause. So why aren't we just playing that?
Well, what's annoying me, Chris, is that you're getting Sky Sports going, Roll and Dyche out of the running, but then you're getting Owen Palmer-Atkin, BBC Radio Leicester commentator, saying they're monitoring Danny Roll's situation. So which one is it? Like, we're getting two different stories.
Yeah.
I don't believe Sky.
Well, who do you believe? I don't
think anybody knows. We've got to create a story, and the club are notorious, particularly at the moment, digging their heels in. They've probably been stung a few times, and they've gone. They're very good at keeping stum. Now, if you haven't got a story to tell, the press will make one up. It doesn't matter at what level. So, as far as I'm concerned, it's quite obvious what's going on here because they're all trying to get one up on each other, aren't they? Who's going to get the actual story? One of them's going to be right, of course, just through pure guessing. And I don't believe any of it. So I don't buy into it. I personally believe that none of the top two, number 4, no, Lee Carsley. I mean, why is Lee Carsley in it? He's just signed
he won the under-21 Euros, didn't he?
He just signed a new contract. We can't afford to pay him out, can we?
Exactly.
So he's not going to be in it. So King should be higher than that in the rankings just by that alone. That's just stupid. So I'm sorry, but I can't buy into any of this betting malarkey. Just seems like everybody's reporting what they want.
All up there, but Eden Thursday, who is my choice, has come in from 40-1 to 33-1. So Steve Cooper's 33-1. Wayne Rooney's 33-1.
My God!
We've hardly to worry about now, haven't we? Jesse Marsh, Gareth Southgate, Chris Hughton. I mean, there's some names on there. There really is. Like you say, we've got 24-hour news channel in Sky. Everybody in the paper, they've got page. I mean, look, you read whether it's the Mercury, the Mail, the Sun, even Talksport. When it comes to these web pages, they make a headline into a full-page story. And when you've read that full-page story, wiser.
There's no substance
to it, So it is about filling it up. Look, you remember when we got Enzo? He came from completely left field, didn't he? So who knows? So many rumours, so little time. Scott says, "Is this a great plot by Leicester to call Rolls hand and say we're going?"
I think that's what it is. I think that's what it is.
But
I really do.
Compensation out. That's the thing. He has sorted it out. He's apparently halved his compensation. Let me just put my light on. Sorry, he's halved
2.5 million.
Well, yeah. Somebody said it was $1 million. If we cannot afford to pay £2.5 million to get a manager out of a job when we're paying $3 million for Koulibaly, who we never bloody played.
But there was reports yesterday, Chris, that we hadn't paid our staff.
There's what? Sorry,
I don't.
There was reports yesterday. No, I don't believe it. But there was reports yesterday that we hadn't paid our staff.
No, I haven't seen that, and I think that would be very unlikely because I don't know. I can't see. No, it's not King Power because they don't own it. The family own it. But look at who they never made anybody redundant during COVID.
No.
Everybody still got their payment. Even the match day stewards when there was no matches, they all got the money. So I can't see that they wouldn't.
My point being, people are just reporting what they want.
Yeah, and they've sorted the problems out in Thailand, But tell you what, Reece will be watching this tomorrow. I can bet you. Once I get my mouth working. Gary O'Neill. 7 o'clock. Yeah, 7 o'clock tomorrow. We've got Russ coming on. We've got Ant from Ant's Leicester Fan Channel, who's just completed the Mudder Runner, whatever it was. And we've got friends of the channel will know Craig, my mate. He's a Bournemouth fan. He only lives up the road from me down here. He absolutely loves Gary O'Neill. Sparks are going to fly because Ant doesn't. I don't, as you probably guessed. I'd sooner have a turd in charge, to be quite honest. In fact, I'd sooner have Vestergaard's dog in charge than Gary O'Neill. I mean, look, let me ask you this, guys. Does that face inspire you? Would you walk out onto the pitch and go, I'm going to run through brick walls for that guy?
Not particularly, no.
No, he looks like he's a cast-off from Michael Jackson's Thriller video. I mean...
That's a good one.
He does, though, doesn't he? He does. That's the thing. I
get it.
I said that if this guy gets the job, I'm going to go and support Nottingham Forest.
Well, you've got to stick to your word. I've
been looking at the price of Nottingham Forest shirts, just in case here. No, please no. And I did say, right, let me ask you this. Reece first of all and then Clibbo. It's a yes or no. Whoever the manager is, because obviously with Steve Cooper, he didn't get everybody's backing from the start. I think that was probably one of the problems. whoever gets the job, will you be behind them from the start?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Well, you see, I would say yes, but not if it's this guy. The only reason I would be behind this guy is to boot him off the cliff at the Bournemouth. Really, it's the only reason I'd want to be behind him. If he joins, I am not getting behind him because I think he won't be with us that long.
Or how about you do a show in a Forest shirt if he is the manager? How about that?
I tell you what I will do. I do a show in a Bournemouth shirt because I wouldn't have to buy one. I can borrow one off my mate. I don't really want to give Forest any money, you know. But,
I'll answer the question. If it's Chris Wilder, then no.
Okay.
I can't support. That's fair. I can't support the appointment because it just does not fit with the players that we've got. All this youth coming through, it doesn't suit it for me. Whereas if Gary O'Neill comes in, now don't get me wrong, he's not my first choice. But if he comes in, I can see why they would appoint him because he has got a good track record with youth. He plays attacking football.
What track record has he got with youth?
Semenyo from Bournemouth.
What I'm just saying is, did he bring him through?
Yes, he brought him through. When Scott Parker got him.
Yeah, I don't know because I don't follow.
Oh, right, okay, yeah.
So I didn't know because obviously what Nick was saying was, and he named 3 or 4 players that Wilder brought through at United.
To be fair, O'Neill did bring a few through at Wolves.
Okay, fair enough then. Fair enough. Is there anybody you wouldn't get behind, Clibbo? Or would you get behind whoever it is 100% and give them a chance?
I'm a little bit like Reece, where I mean, I can't get behind the appointment, but once the season starts, I'm not going to hate on my manager because I want my team to win. I can't want my team to lose for the sake of a manager losing his job. I can't do that. It doesn't compute to me. But I am going to disagree with a lot of the choices that Leicester City are making and probably making in the future. One of them probably going to be the manager, potentially. But I'll have to say at the beginning of the season, do I want him to do well? Of course.
I wouldn't want, even if it's Gary O'Neill, I wouldn't want to lose a match to get rid of him. I'm like you, Clibbo. I don't believe in that. But I won't support him, if you like. You know, every little thing that he gets wrong, I will point out. You know what I mean? I didn't know Gary O'Neill had been assistant manager for the Liverpool under-23s.
Yes, nor did I.
No. Albeit, be it 7 months, but he was. And he went from there to be Bournemouth, straight from there to be Bournemouth assistant manager. Then he was caretaker manager for 12 games. The interesting thing, the actual manager, so not as caretaker manager, just as the manager, his points per match for Bournemouth were 0.92.
Right, okay.
Not the best. With Wolves, a bit better.
You have got to remember he's been at lower end Premier League teams, so he's got worse players than the teams above him. So, and again, like I do believe if we get Gary O'Neill, he would be top 3 managers in the league on paper.
Can I just ask a serious question now, Reece? What have you been thinking?
I've had a nice cup of coffee with 2 sugars in my nice Leicester City mug. That's
You put something alcoholic or hallucinogenic into that because no way is he a top 3 manager. And let's be honest with you, you're saying that he had lower league, lower position clubs. Leicester, that's us at the moment.
Yeah, of course it is. But it's not. I keep saying he's not my first choice. Danny Roll's my first choice, and then it would be Kingy, and then I would potentially go with this guy. I just don't believe in this day and age that the old school management like the old school managers like Wilder and I don't think it works anymore. You've got to adapt to the environment that you're in. You've got to adapt to the new brand of football. You know, it's completely changed. It doesn't work for me anymore. So that's why I would rather see progressive football. It's like what Pep Guardiola said: the winning comes with the football. So
how did that work out for Pep this season?
Well, he just won a treble. And he's just won a multi-Premier Leagues and FA Cups and League Cups.
No. That was in the past. No, this season that's just finished. What did Pep win?
Fair point, Chris.
No, he didn't.
Been beaten. He's just been beaten in the Club World Cup Championships by a Saudi Arabian team.
Well, every big club has off days.
He had a lot this season. I'm winding you up. I
know you are, mate. I know you are. But
look, Clibbo, Reece, thank you very much. Look, this is going to be regular on Monday night, hopefully.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd love to carry this on. I've really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it.
Let's hope this time next week that we're not still talking about another person that's being linked with us.
I don't think we will. I think we're going to hear something tomorrow or Wednesday. That's my prediction.
Not Wednesday. I'm not doing a show on Wednesday. I'm out.
I'm saying Friday. I've got Friday in my head. Thursday or Friday, because press day Thursdays.
It is. I think you could be right. Look, guys, I mean, obviously, if there is any news, I'll be, coming on and saying, are you free to come on a show and talk about it anyway? So we'll see how. No doubt I will speak to you before next week, but if not, I will see you this time next week. Thanks very much. Hang on, what's he got here?
Leicester till I die.
It's one of them stickies you got from the ice cream man out the Chewy packet.
I'll take your Leicester till I die, and I'll raise you a chat shit get banged.
Oh, quality.
Quality. Brilliant.
And let me tell you, that is, you should never put a bet up on Facebook at a Christmas party when you're pissed. Yes, I said I got through to being about 55 years old, whatever I was at the time, and said when we won the Premier League, and said if Leicester were top at Christmas, I'd have a tattoo, and I hated them. And Leicester never do what you fucking expect, and we're top at Christmas. So thank you. I don't know if I'm going to do something. I'm going to go way out and have something really, really weird. But guys, thanks so much for giving your evening up. Really do appreciate it. And I will see you, if not before, I'll see you next week.
Take it easy, boys.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks very much there to Clibbo, and thanks very much to Reece as well. Any the wiser? Don't know. Join me tomorrow, like I say, with Craig from Up the Cherries in all departments, who will be telling us why Gary O'Neill will be good for us. And of course, as well as Ant, we are going to have Ross joining us to say why he probably shouldn't, although Ross might like him. He might like. Has he got a Sheffield Wednesday? Has he got a sorry? Has Gary O'Neill got a Sheffield link? I'm not sure. Yes. Hi, Jack. Yes. Jack, I was about to go. Do you want to pop on for 5 and talk Wilder to me? I don't know whether he wants to or not. He will reply, I'm sure, in a minute. No, I don't think he's replied. No. You'd have been welcome on, Jack. You'd have been welcome on. Oh, go on then. There we go. Right, let me put it there. I was going to go off and go to bed, but what would be nicer, going to bed or speaking with Jack? Let's get this set up and just have a quick 5 with Jack. Why not? We'll just wait for Jack to come in. Interesting to see, because I was on Jack's channel this morning when we were talking Gary O'Neill. And I don't know, did we mention this guy Wilder? I'm not sure. Not sure, to be honest with you. Look, in the chat, what are your thoughts on Chris Wilder? Just add in the chat, yes or no. Nothing else, just yes or no to whether you would. Not saying he's your first choice. The question is, would you be happy? Would you be happy with Chris Wilder as the next Leicester City manager? Here he is, the man himself. The man, the myth, the legend.
Cheers,
Yeah.
mate.
We're all doing the rounds today on each other's shows, aren't we?
Do you know what? It's something to talk about. Apparently, Top's on his way back to England as well, so hopefully an appointment might be imminent.
Might be. Would you be happy if it was this man?
I mean, this guy is as straight up as you probably get, to be honest, out of the two of them. He's a no messing about. If he's got something to say, he says it. You don't get who he hurts in the long run, to be honest, this bloke. So he's got promotions under his belt, hasn't he, from the Championship? Yeah. He's not a Premier League manager. I kind of think he's a one club man, to be fair. I mean, he's done well at Sheffield United on 2 occasions, but he didn't do anything at Watford or Middlesbrough.
You say that, but look at his win percentage at the bottom there. Halifax Town, 38.46% win percentage. Oxford, 44.98. Northampton, 48.41. Sheffield United, first time, 46.7. Middlesbrough, 40%. Watford, he was only there 11 games, so, you know, and that's a long time for Watford, like I said earlier. Sheffield United, 43.59%. You know, just had Nick on from the Sheffield United way, and he thinks he'd be a good manager. That said, Reece was saying we need to move on from these sort of old school managers because you can't, you know, ruffle feathers anymore. Why can't you? Look at the shit that turned out for us last season. Yeah. Rude, to my mind, I don't think Rude was telling anybody. All right, he stood up maybe to Harry Winks, but then again, he went too far because I think he should have maybe banned him for a game, but then brought him back in for the club's sake.
Yeah. Should
these managers not be saying, well, you know, we don't want player power anymore, do we?
No, this is the problem, and Seagrave is where the issue is. You know, you need somebody who's going to take control of Seagrave because it has got out of hand. You've got players who think they roll the place. So it's like a bloody kid's cardigan, isn't it? Kids cardigan, it's like a creche. Do you know what I mean? You've got players who are on big amounts of money. They don't like being told what to do. They're too comfortable at the holiday camp at Seagrave. I went there the other day and I'm thinking, well, this is nice. Maybe I could go and live here for a bit. But no, Chris Wilder has got pedigree in the Championship. He's proven he can get you out the league. He just isn't a man that's going to keep you in the Premier League when you do get to the next step. But Leicester's way of thinking is now we've got to utilise the youth. We have to. We need somebody who can work well with the youth, bring them on and develop them even further than what King's doing at the minute in pre-season. So
we need a manager. The United guy was saying that this guy brought some really good players through the youth system at Sheffield United.
This is what I didn't really know about Chris Wilder. I know we had Raksaki last season in the Championship. He was a very good winger, by the way. He was someone who Leicester admired when we had Steve Cooper. I think Enzo wanted him as well at one point. So this is what Leicester need to do. They need somebody who's a modern way of thinking. People call, Chris Wilder's football, fossil football, or a dinosaur approach, or whatever you want to call it, Jurassic Park, if you want to put it into a film. But yeah, there's been a lot of names, haven't there? There's been the Gary O'Neill's, who is apparently the front runner. Danny Rowe is apparently out the picture now, unless something drastic happens. Dyche, I kind of think he didn't want it from the off because he'll wait for a Premier League job. Maybe one will come abrupt in the winter time when Scott Parker's gone or someone like that. I'm not surprised by Sean Dyche, but the thing is with Leicester, Chris, we're in a position where we can't grumble anymore. We can't we can't pick and choose. We're just going to have to settle with what we've got, because if we're in a position with PSR and everything like that now, and we're in an absolute mess, we're going to be lucky that any manager takes us, to be honest, who would even want to work with Rookin and Time. I'm surprised there's even 5 people lined up for it.
Is this the guy for us, though? I mean, I'm doing a show tomorrow at 7. I've got, as I said earlier, Craig, the Bournemouth fan, is coming on, who absolutely loves him. I've got a couple of Leicester fans lined up. Hopefully, I don't want this guy. I mean, I said if this guy gets the job, I'm going to go and support Nottingham Forest. I probably would not go that far, but I will support whoever we appoint, except this man. Now, I'm not saying that I want us to lose so that he loses his job, etc. But I will be picking up on every little thing he does. I will not support him because I think you'll probably go and only lose one game all season. I am playing reverse psychology here because I'm a shit pundit, so I'm doing reverse psychology. But look at that. And as I said, I'm going to ask you, because I did ask Reece and Clibbo. You walked onto the training pitch and saw that. Would that inspire you? Look at that. I mean, good God. I said he looks like a left off from the Thriller video with Michael Jackson. He's. Oh.
It's not an inspiring appointment. It's not a manager who's going to get you off your seat with the style of football, is it? But this is Leicester's problem, Chris. We don't know what we want. This is the thing. We're stuck. We've not moved with the times ever. We've just stuck in one sort of world on our own. And we brought in Enzo. We thought there were a contingency plan, a short list to, if Enzo goes, we can bring in the next manager who will keep pushing the club further on. But we didn't. We went in the exact opposite direction and brought in Steve Cooper. Then we went for Ruud van Nistelrooy. 2 different styles of football. Then you've got Wilder, different style of football. Gary O'Neill, different style.
Ruud van Nistelrooy's style of football was 4-2-3-1. Wilder's preferred style, according to Transfer Market, so look, I'm only going off what it says, is 4-2-3-1.
Yeah.
And he can go 3 at the back sometimes, but it says his preferred style is 4-2-3-1, which is the same as Ruud. Well, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know. But this guy just doesn't. You know what? Take you back. When we got relegated last time?
Yeah. We
were literally down. I mean, all right, it wasn't. We were hoping that we might just stay up, and it went down to the last day, etc., etc. But nothing. We were so down, and then that Enzo appointment came along. And we didn't even think about what was his management history. We just saw the guy that 6 days earlier had been holding the Champions League, the guy that had been sprinkled with pep dust, and it got the fans buzzing again.
It revitalised us as a squad. And
I think somebody like Danny Roll or Edin Terzic, somebody like that would do that. This guy wouldn't inspire me to have a shit. But he wouldn't.
He's not an inspiring appointment. At Bournemouth, you could always say that he had lack of resources. He did manage to keep them up in the end, and he did a good job, I think, with the squad he had. But at Leicester, we've got a squad who's quality enough to go on and win the Championship if we kept them all together. We'd storm the league with it, if I'm honest, but it's not good enough for the Premier League, but it is good enough for the Championship. I'm bloody sounding like a Norwich City fan, Chris, where the squad is good enough for the Championship, it'll go and win the Championship, but when you get to the Premier, you become a yo-yo club. Gary O'Neill, for me, is... I sort of analysed it on my stream. I seen the good parts of it, and I seen the middle and the other side, because you've always got to look at them sort of factors and take it into consideration. You can't always look at the negative side of it in one. You've got to look at the whole of aspects.
I wrote down some of Gary O'Neill's good points here.
Go on. Nothing.
I'm sorry. Do you not think, right, with Chris Wilder, let's say, or Sean Dyche, or that type of manager, on a 3-year plan, worst case scenario this season, 12 points deduction, management plan, transfer embargo. Mm-hmm. He could maybe just keep us up. Otherwise, we could end up doing another Luton, the way things are looking at the moment. Not out the realms of possibility. But he could keep us up. And that is, let's say, worst case scenario. Then next season, possibly get us promoted like Leeds. And I think Leeds going up will be better for them because they've had that extra year to sort of get ready for it, if you like. And then the season after, like he did with Sheffield United, keep us up. Okay, 17th we would take. And that's the 3-year plan. And then he's not going to win you Europe, but we're not going to be going into Europe. You know, we're not going to suddenly go back to that Leicester. So, you know, for me, that 3-year plan, whether it's Sean Dyche or Chris Wilder, I turned into Sean Connery then, didn't I? Chris Wilder. Either of those two or that type of manager could do that on a 3-year plan.
Yeah, it's about the longevity. And this is what Leicester have got to take into consideration. You know, it's no good keep sacking these managers, sacking and hiring. Brendan Rodgers, Dean Smith, Enzo Maresca, Steve Cooper, Ruud van Nistelrooy. 5 managers, right, in the last 2 years. This will be the 6th. So this sort of shows that the club haven't got a clue of who they want and what they actually want to do. And we've had 2 relegations in 3 seasons to prove that is the point. And Gary O'Neill is coming into a difficult job if he does come in. It's not someone might actually come in at the last minute and Top might actually consider it as a better appointment than Gary O'Neill or Chris Wilder. So we never know what's coming next because that's what Leicester City is. It's a storytelling club. It's like bloody EastEnders or Emmerdale, you know. There's a plot twist to come, maybe. So the only thing I did find positive about Gary O'Neill is the youth. He's very good with the youth and getting the best out of the youth players and bringing them through. And that's what Leicester will be utilising next season. But
Steve Cooper was. He won Euros under 17s with England. Never played any youth players. Ruud van Nistelrooy was supposed to be good with the youth. Never played any youth players. I mean, I'm fed up with, you know, hearing this manager's going to be good with the youth. When it comes down to it, if he's thinking, I'm going to save me job. I mean, that would look at Steve Cooper. Got the job, said, you're not going to blame me for getting relegated because I've gone out and bought inexperienced players. So I'm going to go out and buy old experienced players. Hang on. We thought you're going to, we thought you were good with youth. He never brought anybody through. So I'm kind of... No, he didn't. But I'm kind of sort of...
It's true, yeah. Ruud would have said.
I'm kind of like, this is they're good with youth. Well, you know, so was Jimmy Savile, in fairness. You know what I mean? But, sorry. I just cannot get my head around this guy. And on that note, I think we might be better ending it.
I think it's best to call it now after that comment.
I'll try and cut that out.
I think you've lost the plot.
Some would say I never had it. You know? Mate, thanks for popping on, mate. All
appreciate the best. It. Take care.
Buddy. Don't forget, guys, the final whistle. Get over there and support Jack and show him your support. Guys, thank you very much. I'm going to call it a day there. It's a day. There you go. I called it. We'll see you tomorrow, 7:00. If you're in the chat still, please like it, like the video, subscribe if you're new, and click on that notification bell. If you're watching it on catch up, add on your comments in the description below. And if you've been watching or listening, I should say, via your favourite podcast platform, thank you very much for lending me your ears. All the best. I will see you tomorrow with Ant, Russ, and Ross, I should say, sorry, and the Bournemouth fan that loves Gary O'Neill. Everybody's got to have somebody to love them, haven't they? God help us. I'll see you tomorrow, guys. Thanks very much. Good night.
Thanks for watching. These videos are tremendous. You'd better like them too, or I'll be back.
This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network.
TalkSport. Powered by fans.
That will conclude this evening's entertainment.